Remember, all plays are winning plays. What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, WinningPlayz with the WinningPlayz podcast. So we're gonna get right into it today. But first, I want to go over a little house cleaning stuff with y'all. I want y'all to subscribe, like the video, share it, leave a comment, especially if you're fucking with the podcast and you like basketball talk, you like sports talk. We're here to dive into it today. We're gonna go in with the play-in first. That playing game was exciting last night. We're talking about the Warriors and the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies were able to pull it out at the end, but I'm just gonna go over my take on the game. It was from the start. The Grizzlies, they came out, they set the tone from the beginning of the game. I thought Marant did a great job of knocking down his shots and being aggressive, finding his teammates in certain spots. They kept the pace going. Valanciunas was on the glass heavy on the offensive end. He really forced the Warriors to kind of like really press in and try to clean the glass, which once they got the offensive rebound, they got a lot of second chance points off of it from either him going back up or kickouts. Dillon Brooks did a great job from the start to the finish of face guarding Steph Curry. Obviously, Steph Curry ended up with 37, but I thought that he did a great job of really making it tough. Every bucket that Steph Curry had, it was tough. Obviously, they were up like 13 to 15 at the half, but here come the Warriors. Third quarter, they make their run. They close the gap in the game. But I think the key thing throughout the game that kept the Warriors in it and allowed them to make that run is foul trouble. They were attacking Jaren Jackson Jr. and they attacked Jonas Valanciunas, which forced them to have them on the bench, which it just forced the Grizzlies to go small. They went Xavier Tillman at the 5, and they just kind of spread out everybody. They went 5 out and really just spread the floor, which kind of hurt the Warriors in a way, but it also helped them because they were able to go small of how they like to do, and they didn't have to keep Looney on the floor because when Jonas Valanciunas was on the court, they had to play Looney, which is a little bit of an offensive liability for them because they can't really do as much as they want to do with that 4-guard lineup with Draymond out there. So once they got those guys in foul trouble, it was kind of like, okay, we can pick up our pace, we can rev it up, we can get our guys some shots, we can try to find Steph open more. Jordan Poole hit some big shots in that game, like some big shots. He made a couple mistakes, but he's young. And from his leap from year 1 to 2, it really showed in that game. I thought that he really had an outstanding game from the role that he plays. Steph Curry struggled a little bit. Obviously, when I say a little bit, I'm using that a little bit very loosely because he did have 37, but he shot 28 times, 6 of 15 from the 3. So, like I said, Dillon Brooks made it difficult for him. I think the issue that I had with the Warriors was late game regulation. They get a big stop, then they have 9 seconds left on the clock. Steve Kerr did not decide to use that timeout, and if you go back and look at it, it took them 6 seconds to get the inbound to half court. And then once Steph Curry had to give it up, Draymond literally had 2 seconds to do literally nothing but drive to the rim. And it was just a failed attempt. I thought that they should have used their timeout that they had because when you go back to the overtime, they didn't have any timeouts, and that hurt them because they had used up their timeouts. So I'm like, you got to use your timeouts wisely, and that was a perfect time to use it to set up an offensive play for yourself. You got 9 seconds to really create something magical in that moment, and you get the ball at half court instead of having to push the ball up. I thought that was one of the bigger mistakes they made. They made a mistake by leaving Morant open through the game. He had 5 threes. That's a season high for him. So teams have been leaving him open, like from the Warriors and the early play-in game that he had, and he was struggling. But he showed tonight, last night, he showed you got to stay on me. Like, do not leave me open because I'm going to hit this shot in the big-time moments. Morant was exceptional. That 35 that he had, it almost felt like 40 because, I mean, the floaters that he was hitting in the lane, the shots that he was making, the big pass to Xavier Tillman when it was down at the shot clock was winding down. He was really in no man's land in the air, kicks it out, big three. I mean, they played fantastic. They limited their turnovers in the game. I thought that was huge for them. Um, and they started to pick it up in the second half as far as the turnovers, but early in the game they limited them, and then they forced the Warriors to have turnovers, and that's what really was also a um, a driving force for them to maintain that lead throughout the game, which forced the Warriors to fight back. But all around, great game. A little bit disappointed in the Warriors because I did pick them to go into the playoffs. I thought that this would be a good chance and a good opportunity to see what they had for next season when Steph, Clay, and Draymond, they were all together, and then adding Wiseman back and some more pieces that they can. I thought this will be a great opportunity to see what type of team that they had. But credit to the Grizzlies. They did a great job in this game. They were hungry. I thought that they wanted it more from the tip off, and you can kind of see that. You could kind of see, hey, look, we're here. We're trying to go into the playoffs, and we're not playing with y'all. So y'all need to go ahead, get up out our way. We're gonna force y'all into tough shots. We're gonna make other guys beat us, and that's the overall thing. The other guys on the team couldn't really hit shots when it counted, except Jordan Poole hit a few. Andrew Wiggins hit a big shot here and there, but all together, great game by the Grizzlies. Next thing we're going to get into, I'm going to get into the awards. These are my season awards for this year. Some bias may be in there a little, but it's going to be very much, we're going to do the winner and then the top three essentially in winner. And then I'll give some love and show some love to other guys that I just feel like deserve it. So number one on my ballot for MVP, the winner, I think we all know, is Nikola Jokic. I mean, Nikola Jokic literally led his team in points, rebounds, and assists. And they in the third seed without Jamal Murray, without Will Barton for some time. They had other injuries here and there. They've had some trades, brought in Aaron Gordon. So he's had to integrate with a roster that has not been at full strength for him. And he still managed to put up 20, it was like 25, 10 and 8, and I can be exaggerating that 25, but it was incredible numbers for him. Like purely incredible numbers. We're talking about a guy, and I got it here for him. I mean, 26, 10, and 8. I mean, this dude was tremendous. His passing, point center is what I like to call him. His passing is crazy. The way that he can just lead that team, I think is really important for him to be able to always bring that ball up for them because he is that play initiator for them. He runs the offense. He's the maestro for them. So clearly the MVP. I mean, very consistent. Played all 72 games in the regular season. Didn't really take any time off, and he's definitely my league MVP this year. Second, I'm going to go with Steph Curry. That's in my opinion. I know Joel's in there. I got him at 3. We're going to get to Joel a little bit, but I think the way that Steph led this team, unfortunately, to the 9 seed at the end of the day, but the way that he carried this team, I mean, the 62 this year, the 50-point games, all of the 40s that he had. I mean, I watched Steph Curry throughout this year, and he was probably the most impressive player to me individually this season. The 32, 5-5, we got the scoring title, just 42% shooting from the field, from the 3. I mean, like, absolutely. I mean, we just know he's the greatest shooter ever. He's unmatched in that category. But I just thought that he showed a unique way to lead a team that didn't have a lot of talent. And people were kind of talking trash about Steph Curry a little bit at the beginning of the season, like, oh, can he do this? Oh, he's not going to be able to really carry this team. He's getting exposed out here. And he was seeing double and triple teams all year, face guards, boxing ones, any defensive scheme that you could throw at Steph Curry, he saw this year, and he still excelled. And that's just pure greatness. So got him at 2. Joel Embiid at 3. For me, he was the most dominant player this season. in the NBA. He used his size well. He bullied guys. He showed tremendous footwork in the post. I like that he stepped away from the three because the last couple seasons I didn't like that he shot so many threes because yeah, he can knock it down, but he wasn't consistent. He was hovering around that 30 to 32% range from three. And then he stepped in this year. He started taking more mid-range jumpers, the more 18 to 15 foot, using his post moves, just bullying guys to the rim. Great on defense. Like that was the Joel Embiid we wanted to see. Obviously, he only played 51 games, so that hurt him a little bit as far as like being the winner of MVP. I feel like if he would have played about 68 to 72 games, if he played within that range, like it wouldn't have even been a competition. I think he would have been the clear-cut favorite over Nikola Jokic for MVP. But third in MVP race for the season that he had, I still think is commendable. I think it's still great, and he can just stack on top of that for next season, and then he can probably come out and win MVP. It's just those. It's him having his team in the number one seed. I think that does help him, but also being out like 19 games, 20 games, it can hurt you as well because it's like, hey, your team was still number one. They still stayed afloat when you weren't there. So, that's a little bit of something for him to, just kind of add on to his game next year is kind of staying available for his team so that he can do that. Honorable mentions for me, I got to give some love to James Harden. Like James Harden, he missed some time, but like when he played, like this dude was so incredible. Like the way, like whether he had Kyrie or KD, it didn't really matter which one played that night with him, whether they both played or they didn't play. Either it didn't like he was just on his shit, and like I thought he came out the season really well. I thought he was going to be kind of sluggish with the Rockets. Like I thought, like he's like I ain't even worried about this. I'm eating, I'm getting fat. I'm trying to get out of here. But he still played well in that time that he was with them. And then as soon as he got to the Nets, I mean, he was that same old beast that we know who is James Harden. And I was very impressed with him this year. The assist to like his assist to turnover ratio, if you look at it, it's incredible. He dropped down in scoring and he said, look, I'm going to be the point guard on the Nets. Kyrie, you be the two. I'm going to get y'all guys involved. I'm going to get y'all scoring. And I'm going to score when I need to. And I just really loved how James Harden played. If he would have played a full season, that dude would have been – it would have been crazy to see how dangerous he would have been throughout the regular season. And they probably would have, to me, grabbed that number one spot potentially over the 76ers. I'm going to give some love to LeBron and even Luka. Luka deserves a little love there in MVP. I mean, he makes it happen for the Mavericks. He's incredible. I love his pace, his style of play. He's just so shifty, like, and it looks like he's just going in like a little slower than everybody else on the court. And I really just enjoy how he can just perform in clutch time moments. Like I know, like every time the Mavericks are in a close game, I'm expecting at this point Luka to hit a big shot, and that's crazy to expect from a third-year player to say, "All right, I know he's going to hit a game winner right now. Like I know he's going to hit a go-ahead bucket. Like I know he's going to make the key pass to an open man when the defense closes in, and that player is going to Maxi Kleber or Tim Hardaway, Jalen Brunson. One of those guys are going to hit a key bucket." And he still didn't have Porzingis for a lot of the time this season. So your second star isn't even there for a lot of times, and he still did what he had to do. I mean, Luka Magic, it's in the name. Shout out to Luka. LeBron, I wish LeBron wasn't hurt for those 20 games that he missed, but when he did play, I mean, he was on. Like, he didn't even care that he had a 72-day offseason. Like, he came out, he said, I'm going to play from the beginning to the end. Got hurt in the middle, but he was definitely, showing his shit, especially early in the season, showing, hey, I'm the champion. I'm here. Y'all going to have to go through me if you want to win one. And then the injury kind of slowed him down. Took some time to get back going, but now that he's going in the playoffs, we're going to see the same old LeBron. We're gonna get into Defensive Player of the Year. For me, Defensive Player of the Year is Rudy Gobert. And the reasons why is Rudy Gobert and not some of the other guys that I'm going to have on the list is solely because he's the anchor of a defense that was the best team in the league this year, record wise. Like, nobody wants to come into the paint and when Rudy Gobert is in the game. Like, he is scaring guys away from the paint. It's it's almost like utterly ridiculous to see this guy who is 7'1". He's the Stifle Tower, and he is just like blocking everything. I know he's probably communicating on that back line and letting everybody know like what's going on. And he's just he's just a true defensive anchor in this league. And for him to have a better defensive year as far as advanced stats than he had in his other Defensive Player of the Years, I mean, it just makes all of it just kind of correlate. And it's the number one team. They really depended on him because they have a great team defense, but it starts with him. Like it doesn't go anywhere without Rudy Gobert because it's not a lot of great defenders on that team, but they all compete. But when he's in the game, he makes a complete difference. There's not a lot of guys that really can go in there and dominate him, except for like a Joel Embiid, Jokic, those real true stars, like those superstars in the league, those guys that are on the MVP list are the guys that he can't really guard individually. But other than that, I mean, he's getting better coming out on switches. He's just getting better playing in space. So I think his overall defense has really propelled them, as we see, to being the top team in the league. And I mean, all the credit goes to Rudy Gobert. Give him his third Defensive Player of the Year, man. Fuck it. Give it to him. 2.5 blocks a game and 13 rebounds with what he does. The little things that don't always show up on the stat sheet. I mean, it's kind of unmatched. For me, second player on the list might be surprising to some of y'all, but for me, it's Clint Capella. Kind of similar to what I was talking about with Rudy Gobert, but in a different light. He's on the Atlanta Hawks. They weren't known as a great defensive team last year, and even with Lloyd Pierce. But, dude, Clint Capella, number one in rebounds in the league. He's second or third in blocks at 2 a game. Like, he's been an anchor for them. Like, to really prepare their defense to where it has gotten to. I mean, a lot of people aren't giving him the credit and the recognition, but like I watched a lot of Atlanta Hawks games this year, and I was always impressed with what Clint Capella did. It's a lob threat for them on the offensive end, but more importantly, we're talking about defense. He made all of the right plays for them. He was there, like I said, he was there for the rebounds. He was there being an anchor, kind of steering guys out of the paint a little bit here and there. The blocks were there. So when you combine all of that together, and I think when the center position is the best and most important defender on the court, I think that it just showed for the rest of the team. It kind of was a lead by example for him, in my opinion. Just showing, hey, I'm gonna anchor the defense here. You guys play great team defense on the perimeter, and we're gonna try to get the job done. And then our scoring is gonna take us for the rest of the way. And I thought he did a great job of that. So I'm gonna give him second. Third, it's gonna be Ben Simmons. I mean, let's talk about Ben Simmons because Ben Simmons probably played the most impressive defense to me this year, as far as just like putting guys on the island and just saying, I'm gonna put you in a box. You're not going nowhere. Like the game that I really watched like from start to finish was the game against the Trailblazers. I believe it was in Philly. I mean, he had Damian Lillard on lock. Like Damian Lillard couldn't do really anything because Ben Simmons was shuffling his feet, like just in them, like just getting deflections here and there. Like this guy had every assignment as far as top players in the league. He guarded them. I mean, he's 6'11". He can move like a guard because he is a guard. And it's just his defense. The stats don't really pop out to you. 1 block, 1 steal a game. So those numbers aren't very impressive on the stat sheet. But when you're looking at him, he passes the eye test 100% of the time in every game. Um, just defense for him, I believe, can help them win a championship. And when you have a 6'11" point guard playing defense on the perimeter like that and locking up guys, the top guys in the league, we're talking about the Hardens, the LeBrons, Giannis, Damian Lillard. Like, he's going at these guys. Like, if you have a top player in the league, he's just gonna go ahead and that's my assignment. And he's gonna match up very well with them and what they can do. And hey, good luck against Ben Simmons. Definitely in the playoffs. Couple little honorable mentions here. I got Jimmy Butler because Jimmy Butler's defense has just been very much a model of consistency through his entire career. And this was another year where I thought he took a nice step up in his defense, leading the league in steals. Very much, he's the leader of their defense as far as putting guys in the right position, telling guys where to be, really controlling the game defensively for the Miami Heat. That's where their system really is predicated on, is defense. So I thought that he did a great job of just managing that and also putting on the best defender. He's going to guard the best defender on the other team. He's going to get in there, get deflections. He's going to get in there and get steals. He's going to contest every shot that he can. He's going to make the right rotations and the right switches because that's where their defense is predicated on, making the right switches, making the right rotations. And another guy I have on the list because of them, and I thought the Miami defense was very great this year, and I'm going to give him some love since they didn't put him on the Defensive Player of the Year list, is Bam Adebayo. Because Bam Adebayo is kind of in that position of Ben Simmons where he can go out and he can guard perimeter guys, even though he's he's 6'9", and he can move. He's gonna make every time Bam Adebayo, if you just pay attention to the way they play defense on their team, he's making rotations. He's rotating to any and everybody on the court. And he's gonna close out hard. If they beat him off, he's gonna come down, get a block from behind. Like, he's the epitome of, like, he's a young anchor. Kind of reminds me, and I don't want to say this as a stretch, but he kind of reminds me of a little bit of Ben Wallace in the paint. Like, he's not as ferocious of a blocker, but he will get out there and block for a guy that's at 6'9". Like, he's not letting guys just dunk on him at 6'9". And he can get out there and play more perimeter, unlike we saw Ben Wallace do. But like, just a great defensive year from Bam Adebayo. I thought it was very underrated as far as the recognition that he got. But shout out to him for real. And we're going to just give some honorable mentions, some love to Draymond, because Draymond in the same position. Like, everybody just falls in line on the Warriors as far as defense from Draymond. And it's always been like that. Draymond is our guy here. He's our leader. He's our heart and soul. And it starts on the defensive end for him. Like, he doesn't score on the offensive end. He's going to facilitate. He's going to get guys in their position. And he kind of does the same thing on the defense. He's going to get guys in place. He's scrappy as hell. I mean, he's Draymond. And he's going to get steals. He's going to get blocks. You know, he's like 6'6", maybe 6'5". Like, I don't know. And he's guarding centers in this league. Like, it's just crazy. Like, the way that he can guard centers, he can guard any, like, perimeter guy that he wants. And he can, like, if you try to bully him, he's strong, so he's not going nowhere. Like, very much impressive type of defense that Draymond played this year. He's, one of the factors for them to be where they were this season with the lack of talent that they did have. I like Drew Holiday. I want to give him a little love because I think that Drew Holiday, last year, he didn't get the recognition with the Pelicans that he deserved. Like, this man wasn't even on first team all defense last year. And the defense that he played last year, in my opinion, was better than what he did this year. And this man is still doing what he does. And he's still great on defense. I mean, I watch his highlights and I watch what he does in detail. And it's just the little things that he does. It stands out. Like, the way that he can jump passing lanes. He just gets through screens and is able to he's just like one of the smartest defenders in the league. I think he's the best perimeter defense defender and the smartest one. There's another guy that I want to talk about a little later that is, kind of creeping up, and he's a young guy. And you might know who I'm talking about, one of the Philly Bulls. But like Drew Holiday is just the epitome of a great perimeter defender. He's gonna guard the best guard on the other team, and he's gonna put him on lock for most of the game. He can't like he can play in the post sometime. Like you can switch him onto a bigger guy, and he can kind of hold his own because he's got good hands, so he's gonna make deflections. He's gonna get steals, and I just think that he's a solid defender. Um, Rookie of the year. I mean, I don't know if there's really a conversation. It's a little bit, but for me, it's LaMelo Ball. We're talking about a guy who, when you're in the draft, I think that you got to look at a guy and say, is he a franchise player? Is he going to be the cornerstone of this franchise for the next 10 to 15 years? Like, you have to look at those top picks like that. And for him to slide to 3 and Charlotte get him, and I'm from North Carolina, so like I know the Charlotte Hornets as far as the excitement that they bring to the city of Charlotte and the state of North Carolina. And we didn't really have it before LaMelo Ball. And like as soon as LaMelo got drafted, it just felt like the excitement was here. Like, oh, we here now. We got some excitement. We got LaMelo Ball. And from day one, his passing was there. Like he made the game exciting. He made me want to watch the Hornets. And I haven't wanted to watch the Hornets for a long time. Even when they had Kemba Walker, like, and they were in the playoffs and getting bounced in the first round, I wasn't really like, yeah, go Hornets. Like I really wasn't too I wasn't really too invested, but now I am. Like the jerseys got better. LaMelo came in, made the team more exciting. And I think that guys just kind of feed off of those fun passes and the lobs and, just making, scoring it's electrifying for him. And I think that with him being where he was at, they were in the playoffs for most of the season. He had a wrist injury. Gordon Hayward got hurt. They battled some other injuries here and there. They were young, but he put them in winning basketball. He was making those winning plays, like we like to say here. And I thought that showed throughout the season. So kudos to him. That's my rookie of the year. Second is obviously Anthony Edwards. I like Anthony Edwards. He's a very smooth and natural talent. Like people compare him to Dwayne Wade because of that smooth and natural talent. Gets off the floor quick. Obviously he had a dunk of the year as a rookie. I mean, don't jump with Anthony Edwards. That's going to be the notion that's going out there. Like, don't jump with that man. If he going up, just, hey, make a business decision and let him dunk that shit. He's a volume shooter, and I think that he'll get better at that, like as far as shot selection and being more consistent with his jumper. I mean, he had, an 8 or 9 3 game this season where I think he made 8 and took 9. So, like, he can definitely fill it up when you need him. I think he's going to get more consistent and work on that aspect of his game throughout the next, going into the next season, throughout the summer. And I'm excited to see what the Timberwolves do, especially with Anthony Edwards potentially making a big leap in his second year because he's he's a natural talent. Like, you're not going to see too many guys come into the league at 6'5" with his body, with like his size that he has, just an NBA ready body coming in at 19 and then being able to kind of start slow and then turn it up and just start averaging 20 when he gets to the starting position. That was big time for them, and I thought that they hit on their pick with the number 1. For me, the third guy on the list, Tyrese Halliburton. Like, shout out to Tyrese, man. In the draft, like I'm sitting there looking as the picks are going, and every time, like from the Hawks at 6 all the way up until he went at 12, I'm thinking like every time the commissioner's about to come out and say a guy, I'm like Tyrese Halliburton, because I'm like he was the perfect pick for all of those teams, like from the Hawks to the Knicks Like I thought the Wizards could have used him. Like all of those teams really passed on this man, and I'm like, y'all are tripping. Like I thought the Suns could have used him at a pick earlier, but they went Jalen Smith, and that's cool. But I thought that Tyrese was like really good for what he did this season. You're talking about a guy who, you know, he averaged 13 and 5 on 40% shooting from the field. Or from the three, I'm sorry. Like, and people were talking about his jump shot, and I knew he was going to be able to shoot because, like, shooters shoot. And I watched him at Iowa State, and I'm like, this guy is, I mean, he's got it. Like, so I just knew coming in the league with more spacing, playing alongside De'Aaron Fox, he was able to let De'Aaron go off the ball a little bit, catch it with a live dribble in the half court and do some things. Once De'Aaron got hurt, he still played really well as a starting point guard for that team. And I thought that you can see kind of like his all around game. I mean, he's kind of like he's a three, and he's not really too much in the mid range right now. I think if he unlocks that part of his game, I mean, he can really be, kind of ascend into that star type of player. I think he has like a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander type of potential leap for him. I can see him kind of being in that mold of a player like a Shea, because if he can get into that mid range, because right now he's like floater, layup, and three, and passing off. Like he's a really great distributor of the basketball. But I'm really impressed with Tyrese. I'll give some little honorable mention, some love to some guys. I want to see, like, real quick, I just want to see James Wiseman get better. I know he didn't play a lot in college and he had some injuries this year. I really want to see him take a big step in his second year because I've seen some flashes of greatness there, but then I saw some lack of aggression and really just kind of being lost out there. Like you can tell he was lost, and he let every time he got switched out onto a guard, they beat him to the rim, and that's just unacceptable to be 7-1 and be as mobile as he is, and he's not getting chased down blocks. He's not locking these guys up, trying to stop him from getting to the rim. So that's his progression for next season. I got to give some love to Isaac Okoro because I think that he made a really like smooth, consistent jump throughout the year. Like if you just like obviously nobody's really watching the Cavs right now, but watching Isaac Okoro play, like I love his defense. I love his tenacity. Like he has just like this he has a grittiness to him where you can see like he's gonna turn some steals into easy fast breaks for his career. And if he can start shooting more consistently and have an up his percentage like he started to do at the end of the season and start to become a little bit better of a scorer, like he can be a problem. Who's a guy that in the next, like let's say, I think 4 years we'll look at it and say, okay, he was a gem in this class of rookies that came out, and so I like him a lot. I want to give a little bit of love to Denny Avdia because when he did play, I thought he was great. I thought he was for what the Wizards was asking of him. Like we're talking about a role, like being a star in your role. I think that for a rookie, he was a star in his role with that team. Isaiah Stewart was great with the Pistons, especially when with Killian Hayes being out, and you have another rookie that you took mid to late in the first round. I thought he showed some great play. And then my number one honorable mention is Emmanuel Quickly. Like I didn't even expect Emmanuel Quickly to even go in the first round, let alone have that type of impact with the Knicks that he had. Like they literally were forcing. Like I thought that Ntilikina was going to get time this year. I was hoping my boy Dennis Smith would get some time. And he came in and he was just like, I'm gonna be assertive. I'm gonna go out here and get these buckets. I'm gonna play the point guard position the right way, limit my turnovers, limit my mistakes in general. And they were like, all right, yeah. Tom Thibodeau was like, yeah, we're gonna play you because it's all about, who is playing great at that point in time. And I thought that Emmanuel quickly did a great job of that. And kudos to him, man. Like he forced, Dennis Smith to get kind of traded, and they brought in D Rose. He worked well with D Rose. Like shout out to Quickly, man. Like IQ for real. Like I like IQ for real. Most improved player. I mean, this is kind of like a no brainer. Like almost like literally no brainer. It's Julius Randle. I mean, we're talking about, I wanted him to get that 25, 10, and 5, but 24, 10, and 5 is still great, especially for Julius Randle, who shot over 40, like 41% from the three. For Julius Randle, that's crazy. That's a great jump for him. Like, for him to be where he was at last season, and like teams are like fearing him. Like, he's the number one option of the Knicks, and people are like, we gotta go guard Julius Randle because he is a problem right now with us. So I really respect his jump. I really respect his game. I love Julius Randle at Kentucky. And it took him some time to get going, but that's why you got to be patient with guys in the NBA. Like, he's still young. Like, he's like 24, 25, and now he's hitting those strides of being an all-star. Now he's going to get most improved. And if he can make another jump next year, I mean, we're talking about a guy who can be a perennial all-star if he can keep this type of play up throughout the next, 5 years in his career. Like, he can be a force, and he's allowed the Knicks to be where they're at because of the attention that he was able to get on the offensive end. Like, give him the ball, get out his way. He's gonna make some plays for others. Yeah. Shout out Julius Randle, man. But we're gonna get into Michael Porter Jr. because he's second. That's who I got as my second guy in most improved, because he went from 9 points to 19 with the minutes that he was able to get, and he shot 44% from three. Like, this dude is a crazy efficient player on the offensive end. Like, he shoots it high, so you're not gonna block his shot. It's just about him getting it off and hitting it. So every time, it doesn't even matter. He's not even seeing no defender at 6'10" with that high release point. Like, he's not even seeing you. So it's just like, he can shoot the ball lights out. He's got other little offensive, like, he can get to the rim. He can play in the mid range. Like, he has off the dribble stuff, hezzy pull ups, like all of those little intricate parts of a scorer's game and a scorer's mentality. He has that, and then you fit it into a 6'10" body which is mobile, and he stayed healthy through this year. Like, to me, he would have easily been most improved if Julius Randle didn't make the jump that he did this year. Like, it would have been a runaway for Michael Porter Jr. with the type of season that he had. You double your minutes, and then you say, I'm going to add 10 points on to my scoring, and I'm going to get more efficient from the field. Like, you can't ask for nothing better than that. So shout out to Michael Porter Jr. Third that I have on the list, I got Lonzo Ball on the list for me, because I was just impressed. Like, his numbers aren't super impressive. Like, to me, 14, 5, and 5 is good. I wanted his assists to be up, but we know that he played more the 3 and D role. And when I talk about being a star in your role, like, he did that because you going from a guy who is looked at as a traditional point guard, passing, facilitating, getting his guys involved. And last year, he was definitely feeding, Bi and Zion the ball a lot, getting those lobs, getting out in transition, the typical Zoe stuff. But this year, they got him off the ball a little bit. I wish they would give him the ball more, to let him be the facilitating point guard that he is, and still let him, in the half court set, once y'all are actually running y'all sets, to play that 3 and D kind of player. Be that spot up shooter that y'all like, because he's shooting 40, close to 40% from three. He's at 38, and he was starting to trend up. So I think he can get to 40. And his shot is totally different from what it was when he got into the league. And I think that that's the most important transition for him, was that shot, to be able to be like, hey, I can be successful in this league now as a shooter and as a point guard. His defense, I wanted to see it be a little bit better than what it was. It was still great. I wouldn't say great. It was still good. It was still what it needed to be for that team. But I want to see him be a little bit more assertive on the defensive end, and a little bit more in the playmaking if they can give him that role if he comes back to the Pelicans, because I would love to see him with that team still. Next, I got Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant, for me, why I didn't put him on the list as far as 1, 2, or 3 is because he started off so hot, and when you're with the Pistons and you didn't even continue your scoring up, like, you gotta keep going. Like, I wanted to still see him get those 30s and and 25 plus. Once I felt like the game where Ben Simmons locked his ass up, after that, we didn't really hear too much of Jeremy Grant for the rest of the year. Maybe that was I don't know what it was, but like he just stopped being those 30-point games and just being like the number one true option. He did his thing, and I really just wanted to see him do more as the year went on. Um, but still, shout out to Jeremy Grant. He made a huge jump going to the Pistons, betting on himself. So I really respect him for that. The last guy that I want to give a little bit of love to, well, it's gonna be two guys. Christian Wood first. Think the injury made it tough for him this year, but you can see like the growth. Like you can see like, all right, he's gonna be the kind of the building piece for the Rockets with this youth movement that they're gonna go with. And I really like what Christian Wood brings to the game. Um, he's got the three. He can play in the post a little bit. He's a lob threat. Defensively, I want to see him make another leap if they're going to play him at the five because he's a little wiry. I know he's probably strong, but he's a skinnier guy, so he's going to have to step up on the defensive side if they want to play him at the five. I think that they need to play him at the four and bring in another big body at some point in time to at least start the game and to have another guy that he can play out there with, so that it takes the load. Because I mean, he can't bang with these centers in the league all season like next year. It's just not going to be good for him. I don't think that it's going to help him on his offensive game because he's going to have to exert so much energy on the defensive end. But shout out to Christian Wood. I want to see you make a big leap next year. Potentially make most improved next year if you can make a big jump next year for you. And the next guy is Mikhail Bridges. I want to show him a little love because I thought that every time I watched the Suns play, he was always in the thick of things, like running the floor well, hitting shots, playing smart defense, and he's a smart shooter. Like he'll take 8 shots and make 6 of them, and then he has like 15 points on the game, and you're like, oh wow, like that was like, and then he like 2 or 3 from three. It's like his game is just very consistent, and he doesn't do too much. He does just enough to be a really solid player, solid defender. He's long, lanky guy, 6'7", with these long ass arms, and he's playing defense on some of the best guys in the league, and really doing his thing, holding his own. So shout out to those guys. Sixth man of the year, Jordan Clarkson. It's not really up for debate. Jordan Clarkson. I think that 41 against the Warriors kind of solidified it for me. After that, I'm like, yeah, he's got this in the bag. He was doing it all year. He started off hot, and had a little bit of like a little peak and valley throughout the middle of the season, which happens. But to be, that key guy off the bench that we knew game in and game out for the Jazz, that Jordan Clarkson was going to be the guy that was going to come off the bench and do what he needed to do for them, I thought it was important. I thought it was very it was special in a way, because I think for him, if he really can stick into that role of six man, he's gonna kind of turn into a guy like a Jamal Crawford or a Lou Will, where he might rack up a couple or a few six man a year throughout the rest of his career. So shout out to Jordan Clarkson. My next guy here is D Rose. I mean, D Rose kind of was the impact when he got to the Knicks. I think if he would have been with the Knicks the whole season, it would have been a closer conversation for me, who was going to be the sixth man of the year, because he really was the late game closer for that team. Like when he got into Tom Thibodeau's system and just showed those young guys, like, this is how we're going to run this system. And offensively, like, his numbers don't pop off off the stat sheet for you. It's not like, oh wow, D Rose had a crazy good year. But when you look at what he did in the game, when you watch him, like, he just makes the right plays. He's big bucket after big bucket when you need it, big assists. Like, he'll come in and make a key defensive stop. Like D Rose in the second half of his career has just been like amazing as a six man. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, for real, it's crazy. So shout out D Rose, man. D Rose deserves a lot of love, man. He's gonna get a lot of love from me. So shout out to him. The third guy, Joe Ingles. Joe Ingles is just like when he's really. I love him in the pick and roll. I'm gonna say that first. Like I love him in the pick and roll because he's just smart. He analyzes everything off the pick and roll, like where his guys are, whether to shoot, whether to pass, whether to drive and throw a lob to Rudy Gobert or one of the other bigs on their team. Like he's his advanced stats. I don't really get into too much advanced stats, but he is like when you look at him, like he's top of the league as far as guys coming off the bench and the offensive efficiency and everything like that. Great shooter, and so I think there was no other guy that came off the bench other than the two guys in front of him that was better than him off the bench. Like it wasn't even close this year. So shout out to them. Coach of the year. I'm gonna knock this out real quick. Coach of the year is Monty Williams because he got the Suns, who weren't even in the playoffs. They had that 8-0 run in the bubble, and I really respected that. And then they come out and they do what they did this season. Added Chris Paul, so he was a big part of that, being the coach on the floor for them. But I think it's about getting all the rest of the guys in tune and in check and having that great game plan night in and night out to be able to propel them to where they were at. Second is Tom Thibodeau. When you come in New York and you change a culture where the Knicks fans, they really wanted and needed that, like it speaks volumes. I mean, he got guys who weren't as productive last year or, making jumps. You see IQ and Julius Randle, guys that we've already talked about here. You add in Taj Gibson to be a locker room guy and teach the guys how to play in your system and understand you as a coach. And then you got D Rose in there. Like even with Mitchell Robinson being hurt, you got Nerlens Noel who comes in and gives you damn near like 2 blocks a game. So his defense was great this year. I really like what the New York Knicks did this year. Like Knicks are a good team. Like there's no more like joking on the Knicks. Like they're a good team and they will be moving forward because of Tom Thibodeau. So he's definitely going to get second in that for me. Third, Nate McMillan. Like this might be a surprise for y'all for me to say Nate McMillan, but let me just hear me out because the Hawks were like they were out of the playoffs. Like they were dead in the water. Like there was no way I seen them with Lloyd Pierce getting to the playoffs. I'm like, damn, this team is underachieving. And, Trae Young wasn't playing as well. People weren't liking his play style early in the year. And they had some injuries. Yeah, Bogdanovich was out. Some of the young guys like Hunter and Reddish got hurt. But when Nate McMillan took over the job, they became, for the rest of the season, they was 27-11. And now they're in the middle of the playoffs. Like, the way that he reconstructed that defense, where you have now Clint Capella being that anchor like I was talking about, and then their offense still being free-flowing and getting, Bogdanovich some run with the ball in his hands when Trae Young is either on the floor or off the floor. It kind of was able to free up some of that. Trae Young became more facilitator and stopped shooting a lot of threes. I think that he needs to get back to shooting his threes and just making them. I think that's his big thing, is just being consistent and knocking them down over 40%. Once he can do that, I think this team takes a huge leap in the right direction. But I think Nate McMillan was the start and the shift for the Atlanta Hawks to make that push the way that they did. All right, so my honorable mentions for Coach of the Year. First is going to be Quinn Snyder. The reason why I'm picking Quinn Snyder is because they shot the best as far as three-point percentage went this year. I thought that was the key to why they were so successful as being the number one team in the league. And I thought that him making that adjustment with his team and saying, we're going to shoot more threes. We're going to shoot more threes. And then we're going to play great defense on the other end, with our anchor being Rudy Gobert and then our leading guy being Donovan Mitchell on the offensive end. And with the helps of, Bogdanovich, he put up a big 40-point game this year. You have Mike Conley doing what he did, Jordan Clarkson. Like, when you look at the end of it, like the Jazz are going to be they're going to have some awards that they're going to give out this year. And I think that Quinn Snyder getting that love and Coach of the Year, I don't think he's going to win it, but to get some love from me, and I think he's going to get some love from some voters, in that position. I think that he did a great job. Excuse me, just really propelling that team to the number one because they for the last few years like they've been hovering like 4 or 5 range, and then to make that next step leap for them and to be there the whole year, like being the best team the whole year. It wasn't like they came on late and they made a 15-20 game run. Like they were good from the start to the beginning. So commend Quinn Snyder for the way that he coached his team this year. But the next guy that I'm going to give an honorable mention to as far as coach of the year, this is a little bit of a homer pick. I'm not going to lie because I am a Clipper fan. I like the Clippers. It's Ty Lue. Because he implemented that triangle and it started to make the offense flow a lot better. Like you can see that extra pass. You can see us making 3 passes before a shot. Like these the little things within the triangle, the motion and the movement of players on the offensive end really showed. And I thought that, with some guys being out, like we had Serge out for like 30 games, like Kawhi didn't play for some time. Like these are guys that, what I'm saying, we really needed this year. And he, still kept us afloat as far as coaching wise. Like he was able to make great. I think the way that he played guys was really good. Like the rotations as far as like in and players coming in and out the game consistently throughout the year was good. Like I like the position that he put Reggie Jackson in because I thought last year Reggie Jackson came in and he just really didn't fit. Like it didn't seem like he was a great fit in the bubble with us. And then he came in and this year he was able to score. He still pounded the air out of the ball a little bit. Reggie Jackson stopped doing that, but I thought that what we brought to the table this year, as far as just kind of being under the radar, staying quiet, but staying consistently good offensively and defensively, I got to commend Ty Lue for that. So shout out to him, man, for real. So right now I'm going to get into my All NBA teams. So first on the list, man, I got first team All NBA. I'm just gonna read it off and then I'll try to go into some of this because some of these players, damn near all of them we've talked about. So first team is Steph, Luka, Giannis, Jokic, and Joel Embiid. So that's my first team. And we talked about some of those guys, but I'll talk about Giannis because I haven't yet. Giannis was just, he's a force to be reckoned with. He still had a great year this year. He didn't even have a down year, but I think it's just voters' fatigue on why he won't be in the MVP talks. That's I think that's really one of the reasons why. But he really didn't have any type of drop off. Like whether it was from the eye test, numbers wise, in the winning category, like this team is to me better in a better position this year than they were last year. And he won Defensive Player of the Year and MVP last year. So I like what he brought to the table this year. Giannis's greatness, and it shows at, kind of every step of the way. So second team, I got Damian Lillard, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, and Julius Randle. Since we can put 4s and 5s together and we can put the guards and the wings together, like that's the reason why I put the list how it was. I put Kawhi and KD in there together with Julius Randle because I think all of those guys were just, to be honest, just second team worthy. Like, Damian Lillard was on his shit the whole year. Like, I like what Damian Lillard brought this whole entire season. This was a team that, was in the AC last year and they had to play their way into the play-in. And I thought that this year, Damian Lillard was like, yeah, it's none of that. You know what I mean? When they needed the key wins, he got the key wins. They beat the Lakers to get that tiebreaker. That was important for them. And throughout the whole year, like he just played really well. And I love Damian Lillard's game. I trust Dame. Like I trust Dame. And that's all I'm gonna say. So shout out to him. Like I said, James Harden was on his shit when he was in the game. Kawhi Leonard, I want to see some more 20-point scoring games from him. But I shout out to James Harden. Kevin Durant was Kevin Durant coming off an injury, and he was still great. Like, it's Kevin Durant. What more do we need to talk about? We already talked about Julius Randle, so shout out to that man. So for my third team All NBA, I'm going Kyrie Irving, Chris Paul, LeBron James, Paul George, and Bam Adebayo. Let me first get with my homer pick because I'm a little biased. The reason why I picked Paul George is because he's having a career year, shot 41% from three, and I really liked how consistent he was on his bounce back year from the bubble. Everybody talking about the pandemic P and way off P and all of the jokes that were funny. But I'm a fan of Paul George. I'm a firm believer that he will step up in the playoffs. I'm hoping that he will prove me right in that scenario. And I thought that he did a great job in the regular season, being consistent, shooting the ball well. They were able to use him off the ball more with Rondo coming in. He was able to come off those screens and hit shots. He had the ball in his hands throughout the time before Rondo got there, and he did a good job to me. I thought he did a great job this year, just really taking over when he needed to in certain games and just making those right plays within that triangle offense. Chris Paul, I mean, is there really a reason to even explain why he's on third team All NBA? He's a pure leader, point guard, as we like to call him. He did a great job coming into the Suns. I knew he would make them a playoff team. I didn't think that he would be that strong of a leader on the floor to get them into the second seed. Like, for him to make that jump with that team, it just really shows the testament of how really solid of a player that he is. And I really wish that they weren't going up against the Lakers in the first round, but we'll get to that in a later video. But with Chris Paul being as consistent as he is, passing the ball, scoring in the mid-range, scoring when they need a big bucket, his defense, he's just an all-around great player, and I think he was very much worthy of being on an All-NBA team this year. Kyrie Irving, kind of the same situation, but he was 50, 40, 90 for the first time in his career, and it almost seemed like he was chilling throughout the whole season, in my opinion. Like, people were saying that he's choosing it as like a side hustle, like just a hobby for basketball and not really focused on it, but like he's really having a career year in so many aspects. I wish that, he would have been able to play alongside KD and Harden a lot more. But when he was by himself in those moments, he shined bright. He shined bright with them on the floor. He's just a pure hooper. We all know about his handle and the way he can get to his spots. His finishing around the rim is the best in the league. And he just proved that on another level this year. And I really respect Kyrie's game. I love Kyrie's game, to be honest. Like, ever since he's been in the league, I've always paid attention to how Kyrie played. And this was one of those years where I was really focused on him because he didn't play last year. I was putting a magnifying glass on how Kyrie was going to play this year, especially with the addition of James Harden. And he didn't disappoint, in my opinion. And for LeBron James, I mean, without the injury, if we take that away, his season was a LeBron James season. Like, he came out, he did his thing. He really showed everybody who the fuck he was. He didn't care about no offseason. He just said, I'm going to come out here, I'm going to hoop, I'm going to do my thing, and I'm going to just prove to everybody, like, hey, I'm still the best player in the world. I'm coming off of a championship, and I can do my thing. And with the struggling pieces around him that he had throughout the season at points in time, I mean, he still stayed consistent. He still had his numbers. He still was great for them. He was still taking them to wins. They went from second and third place in the league to dropping all the way down to the play-in without him on that team. And that just shows how valuable he is as a player. I mean, we already know his value, but it shows when he's off the court, even in games, that team looks completely different. So shout out to LeBron. He's the greatest player in the world. What else do we have to say about him? And then with Bam Adebayo, like, I think that he made a great leap this year. He had the mid-range game that he added to his repertoire, and it looked pretty. Like, I really enjoyed seeing him taking those mid-range jumpers when he couldn't get to the rim. He was able to face up, to the rim from about 10 to 15 feet range, and he was knocking down the middies. He was getting to the rim. He was assisting. He was playmaking. Like, I watched him in high school because I'm from North Carolina, and he was a guy that would grab the rebound off the board and he would push it up the court himself. Like he was always had that guard kind of like handle on him as far as getting the ball up the court and taking it to the cup. But this year I thought he took it to another level as far as showing that in the NBA. And I really appreciated that in his game. His defense was still great. He still did everything that, I expected Bam Adebayo to do, as I talked about with him being, kind of in the little showing love, the honorable mentions when it came to Defensive Player of the Year. So that wraps up everything as far as the All NBA. We're going to get into my All Defensive team. And I only did one team, but we're going to give some guys some love. But for my defensive team, first team is Drew Holiday, Ben Simmons, Draymond, Rudy Gobert, and Clint Capella. We talked about all those guys already, so I don't really want to go too much in depth, but I do want to get to, some of the guys that I want to show love to, who I thought did a great job on the defensive end this year that, I haven't really showed no love to, like an Anthony Davis. When he did play, he still was Anthony Davis on the defensive end of the floor, and he showed that he's a problem when you come into the paint with him. He can switch out the guards. He really is, one of those guys who you would have in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year pretty much every year. He just hasn't been able to solidify himself to get that award yet. And I think the injuries this year that he had, there were some nagging injuries that he had in the lower extremities for him. So that really limited him to be able to show all of the things that he can do on the defensive end. So I expect him to really turn it up, and he's going to show why he's one of those top defenders as far as big men in the league once the playoffs come. Another guy I really want to give some love to real quick, because I really appreciate him as being a young guy who is coming into the league and doing his thing on the defensive end, and that's Matisse Thybulle. Like, Matisse Thybulle is the best shot blocking guard at this point in the league. Like, it's not even, to me, it's not going to be close with him in the next year or so. Like, he is so phenomenal at that. He's so, like, I've seen him get crossed out of position where he is off balance and he literally will jump back in and get a block. It doesn't matter who he's defending. He can stay in front of him. He can poke the ball away. He's the pesky defender. When you think of pesky defender, I think of Matisse Thybulle when it comes to the NBA. He has really solidified himself as a great defender. I want to see him start to rev up his minutes. I think once Doc Rivers can trust him more and say, hey, Matisse, we're going to put you in a position to get some more minutes, start hitting your shot more consistently, start being better in other ways, because he is a gambler on defense. He will gamble in some spots, but you can take that and you can respect it because he's going to come out on the winning end a lot of the time. So shout out to Matisse Thybulle. You keep doing your thing. I've been watching him since he was at UW when Markelle Fultz was there, and I was like, this kid right here, he's young, but he's got some defense on him. So I always was watching and seeing him kind of upcoming. And once he got to the league, he really just stamped it like, yeah, he's really a great defender. So that's my episode today, man. I want to shout out everybody that's watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know. Give me some good feedback. I'm going to be in the comment section. I'm going to be answering back. I want y'all to show me some love if y'all fucking with the podcast, like I said. And shout out to y'all. Peace.